Hey guys, you gotten some stickers, buddy? Hi. Don't lick the camera. Hey, Miss Boots. Hey, Miss Boots. Yeah. Well, this is what I'm doing. As you can see, I got a tarp I'm gonna put over it tomorrow, and I've got a bed I'm gonna put in here, and I've got some old carpet I'll put down, and I think this is a good spot. Really, really pretty here. As you can see, the leaves are turning. Look at how pretty. Turning yellow. Okay, doggies. Miss Boots. Well, how you guys doing today? I'm doing real well. I just took a long walk down to the creek. Walked a mile or two down the creek. And I found one spot in the creek that is really neat. A couple of spots. Kind of like little ponds, little reservoirs that, 3 or 4 feet deep, you can get in, and even when the water's a little bit low in this time of year, because we've had kind of a dry summer, so the creek's not very high, but it's sure clean, and oh, it tastes good. But when I come out here on this part of my property, I feel so at peace. There's nothing better than just looking into a fire. And it keeps you pretty warm. When you get the teepee, when you get the tarp up around this, it holds the heat in pretty good. I'll probably put I got a bed frame. It's made out of wood, and I have a nice new mattress to put on it, and be out of the rain. And I build some shelves. See these poles? I've got these poles like that, just hundreds of them. There's little pockets of them, like up there about 200 or 300 yards or more. There's a whole string of them going across, and you can knock those down with a hatchet. They're just like 3, 4, 5, 6 inches little poles, and you can knock them down and drag them right down here, and you can make a cabin or a teepee. So I feel like time comes we'll be able to make enough of these teepees to make shelter for anyone who friends and family that end up trying to weather out the storm that's coming. Because there is a storm a-coming. There's a storm a-coming. There's a storm across the valley. Mm-hmm. The whining of his wheels just makes me... I can't remember the words. Wish I could. Which is really weird because I knew all John Denver's songs. All of his songs. I used to play them on my guitar. Learned to play all of John Denver's songs, most of his songs. Jim Croce, a couple of, Glenn Campbell, a few James Taylor, Johnny Cash. You know, all the greats, a few of them. That was my thing. Now I can't even remember. There's only a few songs I can remember you know, without practicing for a minute or two and trying to remember the words. I haven't done a lot of singing or playing guitar or music or anything for years. I've just mostly been out praying and just been busy doing other things. I don't know how many years I've been doing this YouTube. It's been several hours every day trying to put a video out. Haven't had a lot of time. And the rest of any other time I had available, if I had, I had to build my cabin the last couple of years and work on roads and brush, take walks with my dogs, go visit my daughter. So I didn't have any time much left over. But I mean, I have plenty of time for myself, but I don't just sit here and blank my mind out. I usually sit out here if I have time after I do the videos and stuff and think about the situation and pray and ask God for guidance. Listen for His voice. And He's always there. So amazing. He's the world is great. I mean, the universe is just amazing. And sometimes we get into situations that doesn't seem so amazing. Seems pretty sad. Or maybe you're angry. I've been there. I've been a little angry. A lot angry. I've been bitter. I've been sad. I've been depressed. We don't like to admit it, but we're human beings. We live in this old world. And this old world is not our Father in Heaven's world. If it were, there wouldn't be snakes biting us and frostbite 40 below, 110 degrees with no water in the desert, and it'd be a paradise. This is not a paradise. This is a wilderness. The Bible calls this the wilderness. A wild wilderness means a wild place, not a garden. So evidently the universe has a pattern that it follows when you leave it alone. You might say it's wild, natural. And I believe in that natural world, and it has certain laws. Where a tree falls in the woods, that's where it will lay. That's a law. And I don't mind those laws because I can depend on those laws. I trust these dogs with my life. They just want to please us. Everything's very harmonious in the wild. But you can go in the wild and get your raw materials, posts, and put them together like that. Miraculously, you can go out and gather wood and make a rock pit. I got a little modern convenience here. I got me an old refrigerator grater, come out of looks like it came out of an oven. I got a couple of those. I want to get a couple more. They're good for your fire. So I'm going to have on this property several campsites. But you can take the wild natural resources and use them. But like the Native Americans will tell you, human beings had a natural instinct. We just love to go hunting and hiking, and we like animals, and we like to make, certain animals make good pets, and they just naturally seem to be helpful. The dogs and the coyotes and the wolves, they just seem to be man's best friend. They just always have been. They make good watchdogs. They protect us. They're eager to help us. They're eager to come and lick our wounds and smile and just be present when we need their presence. And they don't talk back. They just comfort us. And if something's gonna come into camp, well, they'll bark and let us know and run off the critters and the bears and the cougars, the squirrels and the raccoons, and keep them out of camp. And cats seem to be a part of the family too. I've got a cat. She's back at the cabin. He's back at the cabin. He's a good cat. He's never cranky. He's always kind and gentle and loving. And does what he's told most of, just like the dogs. He's pretty good cat. And he's a mouser. And well, I don't know about, a lot of people would say, oh, the cats shouldn't be eating mice. That's terrible. Well, that's the reality of this world. I mean, it's a place of we're not in heaven here. This isn't the paradise of our Father in heaven and our Divine Mother. We'll get there. We're on a journey. We're experiencing some other things right now and learning. That's why a man shall leave his father and his mother and go out and find his woman and his mate, and the two shall become one flesh, and they'll make their own family. They'll make their own home, and yeah, they'll visit. They'll help each other. And the one shall become the many, and will expand and grow what we have, and take the natural resources and make something with it. But this isn't heaven. It's darn close to me. To me, this is just about as close as you can get. It really is. But, you go into an area where there's a lot of brush, and there's a lot of little bugs and things that are on the brush, and mosquitoes and varmints that could cause some problems. And so a human, he goes in and clears out a little spot of land and makes a campsite. He uses the dogs to protect him, and cuts down the poles and makes a lean-to or a cabin, or uses the rocks for a fire pit. And he cuts down the brush where he's going to live along the creek and so forth, and that gets rid of the bugs and the snakes. When you got people moving in, the varmints will move back, and And then we can take the soil and we can take the various kinds of plants that grow naturally, and we can take the ones that we like to eat, that taste good and are healthy for us, and we can make sure they have water and they grow, and prune them, and cultivate those particular plants around our camp. Over time, I think mankind learned to do that. Such a beautiful thing. But that's a problem that a lot of people. I mean, we can whittle down all of this philosophy. We can whittle it down to where we think we've got an answer, or we think we understand what's going on. Why we're here, and so forth. But there's a couple of questions that are really, really tough. And those are questions that the great philosophers have worked on, and I think the answers are in the ancient esoteric wisdom. I think it's all there in the little stories that we read, like Adam and Eve and the garden, the tree of the knowledge, good and evil, and that serpent, and every little detail of the writings. They tell a story. I want to do some videos, a couple of podcasts, going deep into the mystery of why we're here and how we could be here, and what thought is, and what mind is, and what being is. If the physical reality is only a manifestation of being, an imaging of thought, if that's the great power of the universe that congeals light into form, the imagination, a conception, maybe in the words, like we conceive a plant. We have a seed and we conceive, and so I think that the world is born and conceived through thoughts. Now, you can have thoughts that don't, they may be a shadowy form just in your mind. They don't take on physical properties. I think what makes thoughts take on physical properties, what it make so that they appear to be physical, tangible, is when you take those thoughts and you add determination and the will, any kind of desire or intent. If we intend, or, it's one thing to have a thought, one or two thoughts. You can think of a pole, you can think of a rope, you can imagine a piece of ground, but until you put those thoughts together as in the sense of putting the poles together as a lean-to or a cabin or a teepee or something that you've envisioned, and then you have some action, which I think action is put in, it's put into action by desire and the will to make those thoughts that we have a reality. So you can have thoughts and they can be like dreams, but they don't, or a vision, but they don't manifest. Now, thoughts don't manifest in a split second. If they did, it would violate our higher consciousness, because in our higher, or let's call it the subconscious, the programming that's going on behind this entire world, the programming is it's programmed by our will. What we decide, we make decisions. But if we made a decision that we're going to have a home, and we're going to have a campsite, and we're going to have a fire, and we're going to have some coffee, and we're going to have children, get married, and get out and build a life, and go hiking, and see, we have this vision of our life. It doesn't just pop, because that would violate all common sense, because the whole vision isn't just a picture, not a silhouette that just frozen in time. Oh, there it is. It appeared. There's a lemon tree because I said, let it be. Well, maybe. But think about how, along with the lemon tree, you must, in order for there to be intent, in order for there to be true desire, you must obviously want some lemon juice, or you want a fruit. Maybe you want shade. Well, you wouldn't necessarily want a lemon tree for shade. You might want a willow tree for that. But whatever it is that you're wanting, it has a purpose. So there's a lot more to thoughts than just the image. There's the intent and the purpose. And so if I'm envisioning a life, I'm envisioning doing it. That's part of it. It's not just, the smells, the taste, the conquering, the hunting. The pleasure of making it happen, because like I said, every thought includes, I think that's why a lot of men want to build their own house. It's part of them. You can see a house in a picture and say, I'd like that. And that's become who we are now in modern society. You just name it and claim it. They claim. Well, it doesn't really work. What's happening is somebody else has got a dream, and you're getting suckered into their dream. They're saying, oh, look, I built this beautiful mansion, and you can have all this luxury, and you could just move right on in for $49.99 a month. Now, that's $499.99 a month. And that's cheap. No, probably $1,599. But anyway, so you're getting suckered into their vision. They built that house. And they're saying, see, isn't that nice? Wouldn't you like that? Now you come be my servant. They put the spell on that dream. They dreamed of a house that somebody else would be sucked into and become their slave and pay them. And that's not our dream. Our dream is, yeah, I want to go out in the woods, clear the land, build the house. So, you can envision a silhouette, just a still, lifeless picture, and say, let it be. There's a lemon tree. Well, okay, for Polaroid. But that's not what we're wanting. And so that's not what happens. What happens is a cycle of events, right? You can't have the poles go up without the nails and the rope at the top to tie it together, and then you're going to have some beams for support, and then you're going to put a tarp on. But you couldn't put the tarp on without the poles first. So this is why, on one hand, thoughts become reality. They literally, your thoughts manifest into the physical structure that we have that's all around us. But there are some substrata. See, so vegetation and rocks and the ground, the solid earth, that is a substrata that we use as the resource, it's like it'd be like if you lived in a world of just splotches and colors and hues and shapes and you're just standing in this huge room with every resource, and you just reached out and grabbed whatever you wanted and made something out of it. Well, that's how we think. We think, oh, if you're thinking of a life with a family and with and a home and years of happiness and joy and walks to the creek, that takes time to walk to the creek. Surely you didn't envision just a picture of a creek. Voila, I can make things manifest with my mind. Look, there's a picture of a creek. No, what you're manifesting is what you really desire. And what we desire is composite structure of thoughts, along with other things. There's more than just the images. There's the smells and the desires and the feelings and the results and the purpose to get out of the rain, the purpose for shelter, a place to sleep, a place to come home and rest, a place to eat. And we'll get going again. So I think these are the kinds of things that I'd like to talk about maybe in another podcast one time. You see how really complicated and yet how simple the world is. And we got people like Einstein and Freud and Darwin and Carl Jung, and Fauci. Tony Fauci, the smartest man in the world. You put a mask on. Do you know what caused, I think it was the Spanish influenza or something, one of those plagues of history? I was reading somewhere that the thousands and millions of people that died, supposedly, they were also the old, the elderly and stuff. But, and they were saying that one of the reasons that happened, that all those people died, was they were wearing masks. In those days, it was a terrible plague. They were scared of it. It was spreading across Europe or something. And so they all started wearing masks, and they would breathe in their own oxygen, their own breath. And it was causing pneumonia. It was giving them pneumonia. It was So a lot of you people out there wearing your masks, if you're wearing them more than an hour or so or a day, or you're going to increase your chances, especially if you are sick. You're going to end up with pneumonia. And pneumonia is very serious. Once you get an infection in your lungs, and you see, in those days, back in the day, they got pneumonia, and they were healthy and they were young, but they got pneumonia. They didn't always survive because they didn't have a doctor. They didn't have, just antibiotic, or maybe they didn't even have a place to get in or get warm. They might have been pioneers in a wagon crossing the West, and there were times when people died. A lot of people died because it had been a war, and they were displaced. They were refugees and things like that. So a lot of these supposed plagues of past, they weren't just caused from some terrible plague that just happened to go through. No, plagues, we haven't had a plague like that for a long time because human beings have had access to warm showers and clean clothes and good food and rest, and people don't just die. But I digress. So all these great wise ones, they've been trying to figure this all out. Well, as far as they follow the empirical knowledge of Roger Bacon and the Ptolemies and, you know, Pythagoras and Aristotle and Thales and the ancient esoteric wisdom from Egypt, and that those divine stories that have been put into the science books, the texts, astrology of all the nations. They told in parables these great truths. You would meditate on them and you would grasp. Very simple. The Holy Spirit would teach. And men knew a lot of things. They were very wise. But then a group of people of that religion, that carnal, selfish lie that got started that says we've got to have government and everybody's got to be told what to do and you can't run yourself. We've got to separate you from your higher consciousness, which is just a place of peace and self-awareness and security. You can get people out of their realm where they feel secure. If you can make them afraid, if you can make them dependent, then in a state of panic and stress, our hormones aren't right, maybe don't feed us correctly, cause war, and the doctrines that cause war. You know, I'm better than you, and you've broken the law, so you've got to die. And, you know, all of these things that led up to war, all those things led up to famine. And those things led to the bacteria causing a greater infection, maybe into our lungs or into our feet or into our, you know, whatever. And we ended up succumbing to these pressures and people died. And it all stems from what? A lack of knowledge. A lack of knowledge of who you are. Not to be afraid that the real world, if you be calm and you stay independent and remain in control of your thoughts initially, and then in turn in control of your life, you will have peace, you will have a feeling of control and security. You will be healthy and you'll have wisdom. But you see, there was this group of people that decided, you know, they understood it so well, how this all works, that they knew exactly the method to take that peace and that higher consciousness away from the masses. So they said, oh, there's monsters out there in the world. You've got to have a city, and we got to build a wall, and you got to be scared, and you got to have police, and we got to protect you. Well, then the armies that protected us became brutal destroyers. We didn't have to go out and hunt for ourselves. We just went to the grocery market. We forgot how to hunt. We forgot how to even feed ourselves. And worst of all, we're forgetting how to think. We are scared. And I know people that are coming down with colds now, and they're scared out of their minds. And you know, like 10 years ago when they had a bad flu and they were in bed for a week. But now they're like, oh my God, I'm dying. And they end up going to the hospital because they got a flu or they don't feel good or they think, oh my goodness, I got a fever. Well, of course, your body's going to have a fever when you have a bad infection, and you're going to have a fever for overnight or whatever. Stay under the covers, get some chicken soup, you'll be all right. But if you put a mask on, it goes into pneumonia, or you stay out in the cold with no socks and no shoes, and you haven't, got any of the, if you haven't, you're not independent and secure, then yeah, you can fall into a place. You're stranded out in somewhere and you can die. You can get sick. Sick happens. Death happens. But the fear of death is not necessary because we are adults. Maybe children would have to be afraid without their mommy because they don't know how to get shelter, or they don't know how to, they're too little to hunt. They don't know, they can't protect themselves. They don't have the experience, the strength. They don't know what to do, and they could die. But adults, nature provides for us. I mean, most men, if they're healthy and they're born, everything's normal, and they're, as long as their mother was had a decent life, they could bring forth children, and they would usually be healthy. They ate right, had a good diet. And those children that were healthy, they grew up strong. They learned from their parents how to build fires and build cabins, and they never put themselves in a position where life was threatening or fearful. But the minute we are afraid, that's what causes all these problems. And so it's just like what we were talking about. Sometimes we look at this huge problem that is not a problem at all. But it looks like a problem because at the moment it's a problem. There's a child. Child can't take care of itself. Well, that's a problem. Child could die. But you see, it's not a problem because there has never been a child. A child's not supposed to be in the world by itself. Children have mothers and fathers, and if they were some strange accident happened in the world and they were homeless and orphans, then they're children. Somebody would take them in and raise them. Somehow the world keeps going on. It has a mechanism to where it works out okay, and there's not a need to be afraid. But there's somebody trying to stir up all these problems. That's what the problem we're having here is. It's just, there's a reason that we're in this situation. It's not normal. Somebody else has derailed our train. So if you really want to derail somebody's train, you got to be really wise to know how to do this. And Yahweh seems to be bent on keeping us as his slaves. I don't know what the Egyptians ever did to Yahweh, but he wanted their firstborn, and he took them, all of them. And, the Bible never tells us exactly what the Canaanites did, that God hated them so bad, but I'll tell you why. Because they had, remember, who were the ones that died in Egypt? The firstborn. All the firstborn of Egypt. And who were they? Well, that's Mithraism. Or I should say, Mitzrium. Mitzrium was the son of Ham. And so Mithraism, or Egypt, they were a firstborn of the lineage of the Cain line. And Cain, remember, goes all the way back to Adam, and he was the firstborn. And so there was just like with Jacob and Esau, there was a battle for rulership. So Yahweh didn't like Egypt, and he didn't like the Canaanites because they had a claim to the right of firstborn. And so if you read some of the Apocrypha, you'll find in our Apocrypha, not some book that nobody's ever heard of, but I think in Jasher or Jubilees or one of those books. It tells you that Canaan was the son of Shem by Shem's daughter. And so I think Ham married Shem's daughter and had Canaan. But so Canaan was the firstborn of Shem. And that's why they lived in that land. And Melchizedek, king of Salem, was probably Shem. And so his son, Salah, was the one who made Salem. Salah is peace. And that's where we get the word Shiloh. And it says in the Bible, until Shiloh come. And to him shall be the gathering of the people. So, yeah, this Yahweh was pretty intent on getting rid of his rivals and then controlling them. What he could, he'd murder the firstborn, and those who didn't have any right to pretend to the throne, he just kept them in bondage and demanded they all worship him. Be slaves. I mean, that means slavery. Worship means slavery. You shall worship the Lord means serve the Lord. That's what it means. To serve means to worship, means to slave. And Yahweh says, ye are my slaves, my servants, saith the Lord. Ye are a worm, O Jacob, ye worm. He calls him a worm. Would our Father in heaven call his children worms? No. So that's the situation we're in. But see, he knew that to really keep us down, you had to keep our thoughts down, our ambitions, our hopes, our dreams. Because if you got a dream and you have the will and the means, you're going to accomplish it. You're a child of the divine being. You're a child of God. You can do anything you want, but you got to believe. And that's why Jesus came to tell us, you got to believe. Don't believe the liar. My Father loves you. You can do anything you want. Come out from under his fear. All you got to do is believe. God is love. Just forgive everyone as he forgives you. Why do we forgive other people? Because that's what our Father in heaven does. Yeah. He makes the rain come down upon the supposed wicked and the righteous, the sunshine upon the wicked and the righteous. Doesn't keep account of injury, according to the Apostle Paul. And he does not get jealous, because love cannot be jealous, nor puffed up with pride, as that Old Testament Yahweh was. So in his wrath, he said, you will not enter into my rest. You will not partake of knowledge and become like me. You will not live forever, because you will be my servants. And all the nations shall know that I am the only God. Besides me, there is no Savior. We just read yesterday, in that podcast I did yesterday, we read Zechariah 13:6. It's a prophecy. A lot of people wonder, is Jesus prophesied in the Old Testament? Yes, he is. You see, Jesus is the other God, the one that is the enemy of Yahweh. That's why Jesus went to hell and died, because he was the enemy of Yahweh. Yahweh sent him to hell. Yeah, read Isaiah 14. Lucifer, what is that? That means light, the morning, the son of the dawn, the morning star. Jesus says, I am the morning star. I am the man that you see in the sky, Orion, Osiris. By the Egyptians called him Osiris. And in his right hand, he holds the 7 stars. What's that? Pleiades. Those are the 7 stars. And if you look at the constellation Orion the next time you see it in the sky, it's beautiful. You can see it looks like a big square. And then across the square, you can see 3 stars. That's the belt of Orion. And if you look up, you'll see his hand stretching all the way onto Taurus's shoulder, where the 7 sisters are, or the Pleiades. And Jesus says, I am Osiris. Why? Because Osiris is the god that's reborn after he goes down to the bottom of the wheel, goes through hell, and conquers it, and comes back reborn and sovereign. And Isis, which is the star Sirius, is down at his toe, and she is the one who gives birth. And the three stars in Orion's belt are the three wise men that come up over the horizon. And when you see the three wise men, they're announcing the birth of the divine sun, the coming solar year, where the summer comes and fertility and everything blooms and blossoms, and it's wonderful. And so Jesus was explaining that the stars tell about this story about how we're all going to, yes, we have to die. We come here to learn. We submitted ourselves to this evil and to this classroom willingly. You know, Jesus said he came and partook of flesh and blood, as did his brethren. We did the same thing. We came here, we signed the contract, and now we're under the laws of this world, and we'll die. And the only way out of this world is death. And we learn by the things that we suffer. But this is not our Father's world, because our Father in heaven is a divine light that is within us. We are the temple of the divine being. And our Father speaks his word, and the word is the Logos, the divine, the only begotten of the great divine Virgin Mother, and our Heavenly Father. And the divine child is born in us, in this manger, this earthly tabernacle, this barn where the horses are, right? We're the animal kingdom. We're born here in this place, but we've got swaddling band because we're something special. We're destined for more. As soon as you wake him up and realize that this physical world's just a body, we're much more than the physical world. Then you realize that all this trouble and pain and problems is because somebody took our independence. Somebody's controlling us with lies and propaganda. And once we get rid of that and we realize who we are, we recognize the Christ within us, then we will command the sea and it will obey us, and the winds. That's the thoughts that are stirring and blowing upon the waters, the emotions. And the emotions are rocking your boat. But if you let the Christ wake up, if you say, "Wake up, Christ," he'll stand up and he'll calm the sea and the wind. And everything will be fine. You won't drown. There's no problem. Everything will be all right. You're the cause of all of this. I mean, you're controlling it, but somebody else is making you think that you have no control. And you're getting lost in all of this. So that's why I come out here. That's why I like being out here. So I don't hear any of the machinations of the devil out here. I don't hear the constant drip, drip, drip. Oh, we're all going to die. We need more prisons. Police out here making sure I'm stopping at a stop sign. I ain't got no stress, no worries. And all I can hear is that still small voice of the Lord that says, I love you. And it strengthens you. And you go forward and gather steam and become powerful in the word. And you speak the word. And what does it mean to speak the word? It means to command the mountain to be moved, and it will obey you. By your word, all things are accomplished. What is man that you are mindful of him? Or the Son of Man that you take care of him? You made him a little lower than the angels, but you crowned him with glory and honor. The Bible says we have not yet seen man crowned with glory and honor. But that's our purpose. We just simply realize and wake up. We're that prodigal son. We own it all. We're the heirs. And it's not something we have to wait for another day or another hour or another age. This is it. We're in that age now where we're waking up. And we can do it. We just need a calm place to listen to the Lord and hear His Holy Spirit and His love and receive His peace. Well, gotta put a little more wood on that fire, guys. I'm gonna go ahead and go. I hope you guys have a great day. We'll see you soon, guys.